Hi, this is Mike Kaler, Customer Service Manager for CE Labs. In today's tech tip, we're going to be discussing QuickSign Pro Designer 7X Layout Designer. The Layout Designer has a lot of pieces that go along with it, so we're going to break this down into a few lessons so we can cover everything in great detail. So let's get started. The first thing you're going to need to do is open QuickSign Pro Designer 7X. After you have the program open, you're going to want to go to your Layout tab. From the Layout tab, you're going to want to select New Layout. Okay, the first thing that we want to do is probably go over the menu items at the top in the menu bar. Things on the menu bar are pretty much just duplicated in the pull-down menus like copy, paste, delete, your group settings, which you turn on here. You've got your alignments where you can take several boxes and align them. So let's go over each one of the menus real quick. Under File, you can save, you can print a copy of your layout, you can import and export LD files. So if you go to our forums, you can download some LD files that I've done as examples and then simply import them here. You can also export to our CCM, which is our commercial content management product. Edit, cut, copy, paste, delete, undo, pretty much the same as any other Microsoft product. Alignment, like I said, aligns everything. On the screen you highlight several boxes and you can align them. Under View, we can do zooms, you can hide the grid, you can turn the grid back on. I like the grid. Snap to the grid. You can turn your screen in portrait mode. So if you've got a screen that is in portrait mode, you're going to want to do that for sure. You can set the resolution. I recommend leaving it at 1920 by 1080 if you've got a 1080 monitor. Portrait mode, you can rotate it clockwise or counterclockwise. Show labels on the zones. So if I pull a zone over here, and let me resize that a little bit, you can see this label. I can turn that label on or off just by clicking that. Let me delete that. You can also go in and lock and unlock your zones. So once you get a design the way you want it, you don't wind up messing it up. Within the layout, you've got background options. It allows you to pull an image over and you can tile it if you wish. And you can set that tile height and width, or you can just leave it at none. Under Tools, we've got the Font Manager. We've discussed this in other videos. In the Font Manager, you can add TrueType fonts. So as you can see, I've got quite a few fonts that I've loaded. There are a lot of places on the internet where you can go get those fonts, and most places they don't cost anything, and you can get some really nice ones that look well in your layout. The other thing you can do is render an image, and what this does is takes a snapshot of your layout so you can do whatever with it. One of the things that I do is in the forums where I've got my sample LD files, I also have a picture of what that layout looks like, and that's done with the render image. With that, we'll start going into the video zones and we'll discuss what each one of those do. One of the first things that I recommend doing is always shrinking your layout to where you can see the entire thing on the screen at once. You have a plus and minus zoom key on the far right hand side, and this will shrink it down to where you can see everything on the screen at one time. Also, you'll want to make sure that your layout is in 1920 by 1080 if that's what you're really setting it up for, and that's what I recommend. And normally, if you're going to cover your background, you may not need to change the color. You may like it white. If you do want to change the color of your background, simply go over here, select a color. Let's say we want to make it blue. And I would drag that color over and drop it in the middle. The other thing you can do is grab a picture, take it over and drop it in the middle and say create new image zone, or just set it as a canvas background, either or, and then you can place the video. That was setting it as an image zone. If I set it as a canvas, I'll do the same thing, and as you can see, it takes up the whole canvas. So that's how we start with our background. The other thing you can do is also tile it, as we discussed in our previous video, and we set the tile by one, and that's what tiling looks like. So let's go ahead and set my video background back to white, and let's discuss our first zone. Our first zone is the video zone. And let's bring it over here and resize it a little bit. And if you notice, there's a width and height number right here, and this associates to the size of the zone, and there's an XY coordinates telling you where you're replacing that zone, so it can assist you in lining things up. And you'll want to keep this zone, this particular zone, in a pretty substantial 16 by 9 layout if your video's in 16 by 9, so it's not stretching your video too much. This zone, this is about the only thing you'll do. You'll drop it in place, and when you go to send the zone or send your layout to the player, you will add a playlist along with it if you're using a playlist, and whatever is defined in that playlist, images or channels, tuner, also videos, those will display in this video zone. That's what this zone is for. The next zone that we want to discuss is the image zone, and you can lay zones over top of one another. The image zone allows you to drag and drop an image and place it right in the zone. If I right click, I do have background properties. I can set the opacity of that image. I can set gradients and solid colors. I can maintain aspect ratio. I can set borders around the image, and I can set those border colors. Let me see if we can display that. Here I've got it set at an opacity, and if I let's just take it all the way back up and resize to fit. Okay, if I set this at say 20, and let me make it some color that really pops. There you can see that the image has a border around it, and that it's you know, a bright, nice color. If I go over to corner radius, I can set that as well, and what that's going to do is kind of round the corners off. Let me pull it back over where you can see what's going on, and as you can see, the corners have been rounded, and it gives it a really nice appearance. And you can tell it to do each one of the corners by checking the boxes, or just leave them all checked and it'll do all of them. So that is the image zone, and that's great for if you want to put just one single static image. Maybe you've got a logo that you'd like to put in the bottom corner of the screen. This certainly allows you to do that and just leave it on the screen and not have to deal with it much any after that. So let me go ahead and remove that. The next zone is the text zone. Let me open this up. If you double click into this zone, you can erase it, and you can come in and write text any way you'd like. I can drag colors over to it to change the background color. I can go to my zone properties, and here I can select the font that I'd like to use and the color of that font. So let's say I wanted it to be a nice green color. The next thing I would do is in text properties pretty much does exactly the same in this particular instance as the zone properties. You can also align it left, center, right, bold it if you wish. The background properties will allow you to also set the color if you don't want to drag and drop. You can set it as a gradient, and you can tell it what color to start in that gradient. Let's say we want to start at a oh gosh, I don't know, how about a light blue, and we want to go to a dark blue, We can also set the opacity, which is great if you want to write text and place it over the top of a picture or over top of your video. You can set that opacity down and you'll just see the writing. Once again, you can do your borders and you can also do your corner radiuses. So let's see that, and you can see right here that I've done a gradient, and you can see how that turned out. Next, I thought I'd skip around a little bit and take things more in a logical order. And I like to skip down to the bottom zone, next to the bottom zone, which is a decorative text zone. And this zone is almost identical to the regular text zone, with the exception of your text can be more decorative looking. It's more 3D looking, and it's pretty much got the same properties, with the exception of you've got a stroke width and drop shadow, and you can set the color of those stroke widths and drop shadows to make it look more 3D-ish. So let me pick some other color instead of teal just to kind of show that off a little bit. Let's do a crazy purple. How about a fuchsia? And let's bold it. And let's close this and see what we've got. As you can see, yeah, it doesn't look very good on the red. Let's go ahead and change that as well. I'm going to drag a color over and drop it. And there you can see what it kind of looks like. Let's go back to that text properties and let's make that font much bigger. So let's go to say a 68 font, and let's see what that looks like. So there you can see kind of what it does, and you can get an idea of what's going on. It is just a decorative text box. It's kind of a fancy text box, and that's why I thought we'd cover it next. So after discussing this decorative text box, let's go ahead and go back up and take things more in order, and let's discuss the RSS feed. Once again, the RSS feed can be resized. You can change the color of it by dragging a color over. You can go to background properties and change that color as well. Set the opacity of the gradient. You can do border size, corner radiuses, put an image as a background. That's something I didn't touch on, but most of our zones you can do that as well. If you go to the zone properties, you'll put your RSS feed that you get off the internet. You put that here. You set your duration. You can add a custom title if you wish. You can set how often it updates, the text color, and the margins. And the margins sometimes can come in quite handy. Over on the left-hand side, you can kind of adjust what you would like to see out of your RSS feed. Maybe you only want description or description and title. Maybe you like the date along with it. So all these are different kinds of options that you'll display within your RSS feed. Our players strip out the pictures that come with RSS feeds on some RSS feeds that have them. We do that because they're not designed to show on large television sets, and they don't look very good. Other things you can do is you can right click on it, go to the background properties. Once again, you can tell it it's a gradient, solid, put an image behind it, set the opacity level, set the border size, corner radius, just like all the other zones. The opacity level is a pretty nice option. So you can put like an image behind it, set the opacity level down, and yet the text will stay firm on top, and makes for a real nice presentation. The other thing you can do is take it down to the bottom of the screen, stretch it all the way over, set your height however you'd like, and run it as just a standard scrolling, a text scroller, an RSS feed text scroller across the screen. And that gives you another option. Okay, the last two zones we're going to discuss are the slideshow zone and the text ticker. We're going to do these together because I feel like they really go well together. And they can certainly be used separate, but when you see what I'm doing, it'll make a lot of sense. First thing we're going to do is pull the slideshow zone over. I'm going to right click on that slideshow zone and go to the zone properties. In the zone properties, I'm going to drag and drop a few images. And we'll take and drag about 3 or 4 images over here. And I can set the duration, the time between each image. Let's change that to say 5 seconds. I can enable an effect, and if I enable the effect, I've got several effects to choose from how I would like the images to fade in and out. I'm going to leave that off for the moment. And I'm going to go ahead and close this. And as you can see, I have my 4 images. Next, I can take a text ticker. I can put it on top and tell it that the background is transparent, or I can set it below. And here's the really cool thing. So if I right click, I go to zone properties, and I have 4 images, so I'm going to add 4 text box. Now then, I'd set the time between each image at 5 seconds. So I'm going to set the time between each slide at 5 seconds. I'm going to leave my effects off because I left them off in the other. Then I can label these MP70, say front, MP70 rear, MP700 front, MP700 rear, and then let's go ahead and exit that. Now then, every time the image changes, the text will change because they're set at the exact same time. And I can, once again, let's change that to something a little more visible. So this is where the slideshow and the text ticker really kind of go hand in hand. Yeah, the text ticker can change text and do a lot of things. The slideshow can change slides, but when you put them together, they become really powerful. If I drop that transparent, which is the checkerboard one down here, on it, and let's go change our text color from white to black, something, or red, something we can see, and let's bold that up. Now because the background is transparent, you can see I can pull that right up on the image zone and you can still see it, and that really makes a really nice effect. It allows you to do a lot of things with it. As well, you can also go to the background properties and you can add borders, add corners, do opacity, maintain your aspect ratios, gradients, solid colors. This is a PNG file that the background is transparent, so you see a transparent background in it. If I were to change the background of the whole screen, you can see it also changes there. So that gives you a couple of really nice zones that you can do a whole lot with. Well, I believe this is a good stopping point. So this concludes this lesson, part 1 of the Layout Designer in QuickSign Pro Designer 7X. As always, we appreciate you buying CE Labs products. And if you have any problems or have any questions, please give our customer service department a call at 800-767-6189, and look forward to part 2. Thank you.